I have all kinds of stuff. Some people call me a hoarder. I call myself a collector. Hi guys, welcome back to From the Vault. Last week we touched on the JT GSX Whippersnapper, the original proprietary paintball mask, and I talked about how there was some ear protection for them. While I was rooting around in my parents' basement looking for today's show, I found them. It's called ear armor. The foam is a little deteriorated because it's about 15 years old, but it would velcro on to the goggle strap. It doesn't say right or left, it just says front. So it would go onto the goggle strap, and then you would velcro it on, then you would adjust it to cover your ears. I'm not going to put this on for obvious reasons, but you will get the gist of it. So this would, with a traditional JT goggle, this would give you some much needed ear protection in the early days of paintball. So that's a recap on last week's episode, and I also found one of these in a package. The GSX goggle full string. This is for the referee version of the mask. You still have the same mask, but you'd snap on the neon yellow mask to give you a referee version. So something I found still in its package, no price tag, but they were located in Chula Vista, California. JT Racing original logo, so it's pretty cool. Just something else I found from the vault. Also, while I was rooting around for some stuff, I found lots of stuff, and I talked about originally about me not being a hoarder, being a collector, but I will have to admit, maybe to my wife, that I have found lots of things. So I may be a little bit of a hoarder crossed into a collector, but still a collector. So I will admit there is a little bit of hoarding, but you have to admit this is pretty cool stuff. So it's very much on the threshold of being a hoarder or a collector. Moving right into today, a lot of guys talked about wanting to see a marker. So today's marker is going to be the Mark I pump action marker, short named the Uzi. This was the first paintball marker that we ever used. It was really actually cutting edge if you think about it before its time. It didn't have an external hopper. It was all internal. It held 38 paintballs in the magazine. There was a little window that slid back and forth on here. You slid this back, dropped your paint in. This is actually ramped, so it was almost a very crude gravity feed. It's Nelson based, so you pump it back, the breech would open. It had an integrated safety on it. There were slings available. The original ones had steel barrels that could be polished. This one's a nylon barrel. This one is probably a second generation Mark I Uzi, just for the fact that it is adapted so you can screw a CO2 tank directly in the back. This probably 3 or 4 years after they came out. But the original ones, a CO2 would drop in the back. You'd have a main plug. This would just screw in. Then there would be a fine adjustment, which would ultimately puncture the 12-gram powerlet, thus powering your gun. So pretty cool. You get some good shooting going on. Pump, shoot. Had an integrated sight. If we take it internally and look at what they did, it was pretty cool. Internally, you can see the whole valve system would sit on these ribs. You can see the hopper, the breech is right here. On them, we would have to chip them open so the paint would feed a little better, else it would jam up. The trouble with these, we found using them for a rental marker, is the fact that all these places where the screw pieces, they would actually break. So what I would use with a hot glue gun, I would put in some reinforcement on all of them to give the marker a little more rigidity, especially in here, because you had all the pressure from the CO2 going in, or at the time if you were running a CO2 constant air tank, which really, until the late 80s, constant air wasn't even a factor, because everybody was using 12-gram CO2s. Also, when I say field guns, most people back at that point in time didn't own their own paintball markers. You couldn't get them. You could get, you had 3 choices. You had a Nell Spot, you had the Mark I Uzi, or you had the 6-shot repeater or the 8-shot repeater that the adventure game was using. So that's about the only options you have. Not until the late 80s did people start owning their own equipment. But that's it again for from the vault. Thanks very much, and we'll see everybody next week for something cool. And my phone's ringing. It's probably someone telling me they found something really cool that I have to show. See you guys. Take care. Thank you.
Twist the tune, make everybody cheer. Breathe the moon, inhale the light year. Who's the goons that's ready to fight beers in the booth?